Hi everybody. So what we're going to do today is look at how to turn an image like this into a line detected image like this. So it will take all these little edges and put a line on them. This can be handy for a number of reasons, and then we're going to also look at how to render it out as a perfect image so you can then use it whenever you want. Alright, let's hop right into it. Alright, to start off, we're going to delete the default cube, get ourselves a image. Images as planes. If you don't have the images as planes activated, you can activate it in preferences. We're going to navigate over to whatever texture you want to use. I'm going to use something from a program called JS Placement, which is free, and you can generate these sort of techno-greebly sort of images. We're going to Alt-R to reset the rotation of it, and then we'll hop over to Eevee so we can see what we're doing. So, first we're going to pull this up. We're going to hop over. Alright, we're going to click Shift F3 to shortcut our way over to the shader editor, and we're going to delete the deprincipled BSDF. Then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the shader, Control T to give it mapping coordinates, and we're going to mix them both together with the mix shader. Oh, sorry, a mix RGB. And we're going to set it to subtract. Turn the factor up to 1. Alright, so we're then going to duplicate this shader once again. And then we're going to delete the mapping. We can use the same UV for both of them. It doesn't matter. Then we're going to add a value node, and we're going to hook it to the location. Oops. We're going to hook it to the location of both of these. Then we're going to set it to something really small, like 0.001. We're going to duplicate the subtract, plug the first one that has no change to its UV coordinates in, and the second one, and we're going to subtract those as well. And then you're going to click reverse it. The next thing we're going to do is add a math node, and we're going to multiply one of these values by -1. What that is going to do is it means this one will be 0.001 and this one will be -0.001. So it just flips the minus sign, which means one of these will move up and one of them will move down. And I've just remembered we also need to add a separate XYZ, or sorry, a combine. Combine XYZ to each of these. Just make sure it's on the same one for both. So if it's on the X for one, it has to be on the X for the other as well. Now, if we hop into our subtract, what you can see is it's offset lines. And the second one, we should have offset, oh, we plugged this into the wrong one. Okay, so we're going to plug that into there and delete that one. So this one, if we find a circle will work. This one's got an edge on the top. This one's got an edge on the bottom. Now what we can do is we can add both of these together, again, through just a mix shader. Switch the blending mode to add. And we check out that, we'll see we have both of them. And this doesn't quite solve it because we've got the top is good, the bottom is good, but each side is kind of weird. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both of these, duplicate them, plug the X, move it from the X to the Y in both of them, and we're going to plug this value in so everything uses the same value node. Just get rid of that. And this one, and we can delete that node. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this texture, which has no change to it, and we're going to plug that into both of these subtracts as well. Now we're going to grab an add. We'll add both of these together, duplicate it one more time, and add all of these together. So we've got this nice tree that adds everything together in the end. See what that is, and now you can see that what was funky circles before is now perfect circles. And if we zoom out, you can see it's added lines to everything. Some quick things to note is that the value node we added will control the depth of the lines, although you have to be careful because it will very quickly completely stop functioning. So you want to keep it really nice and small. That gives you control over the thickness of the lines. Something else to note is that it really works best on images with clean lines. So if you take a really high detail image, like just a photo of someone's face, there's a good chance it won't look nearly this clean or work quite as well. But I mean, hey, play around with it and see what works for you. It can give some cool effects in its own right, even if it doesn't look quite as clean as this. The next thing we can do is render this out as a texture, because this, well, it works great, and you could technically leave this as is. It will use quite a bit of VRAM because it has to use these textures multiple times. I'm not sure if it stacks VRAM for each individual instance of the texture where things are different, or if it repeats them. But either way, if you want a more performant version of this, you can render this out as a texture and implement it back in. So let's go ahead and talk about how to do that. So we'll add a camera. We'll Alt-R to reset rotation. We'll hop over to render settings. The output properties. We'll change it to whatever resolution you want the texture to output as. So I'm going to change it to 4096 for both of them. You can click and drag to edit both at the same time. Type in your number. You could also do 2048 if you want 2K, or 1024 if you want 1K. And that'll just be more performant as you go down that. So we're going to go to camera settings. We're going to switch it from perspective to orthographic. And now we're going to click N, go to the item tab, and we're going to look at the dimensions. So this is 1 and 1. Then we're going to go back to our camera. We're going to click on the orthographic scale and just switch it to whatever the scale of this is. So for this, we're going to do 1. If you're using a default plane, it might be 2. And what that'll do is it will just perfectly line everything up. Now we're going to take the camera, click G, Z, move it up just a tiny bit. It doesn't matter how much, just a tiny bit above the 0 plane, so it's not on it. Now we'll click 0 on the numpad to hop into the camera view. And we have a second camera. We're going to delete the second camera. And now we'll click numpad 0. And what is going on? Try it again. There we go. So you just have to move it up a little more if it doesn't appear. And now you can see it's perfectly lined up with the edges of this texture. So you don't have to mess around trying to get it all lined up. It'll just do that automatically. One thing to note about this method of subtracting and offsetting is the edges won't necessarily be perfect because you're actually moving the entire image over. So there will be a tiny bit on some of the edges that doesn't quite seem right. Like as you can see, there's a tiny bit along a lot of these edges where it's cut out, which is something to keep in mind, but it also doesn't make too big a difference most of the time. So now, if you're happy with this image, you can click F12 to render it. Then do image, save, or save as, and save it wherever you want. I've already got an image of this, so I'm not going to save it, but you could put that in next to wherever you have the base textures and use it whenever you want. Alright, that's all I have, so bye.